Welcome aboard. Stay tuned and subscribe to Han Li's Wuxia Adventures for more thrilling content. Chapter 2208. On the other side, Wu Taibai immediately contacted Xia Ziheng after leaving and told him what he had seen. Xia Ziheng's expression turned ugly. There was no need to guess. Yu Hao's frequent contact with Bai Weiwei meant that the frozen immortal sect was trying to rope him in. And according to Xia Yan's report, both Yu Hao and Celestial Master Gu Yan were starting to lean towards the frozen immortal sect. This was unacceptable. Even if Yu Hao died, Celestial Master Gu Yan would not be allowed to join the frozen immortal sect. He couldn't figure out how Yu Hao could be so influential that Celestial Master Gu Yan, who hated the four cardinal scales, would change his mind. But then his expression changed. If Yu Hao was so influential, then he could control him and make Celestial Master Gu Yan lean towards Celestial Master Gu Yan. No, he had to solve this as soon as possible. Thinking of this, he immediately contacted Xia Xing. Are we going now? Xia Xing frowned. Xia Ziheng said, the frozen immortal sect has already made a move. I don't know what they promised Yu Hao, but Yu Hao is constantly in contact with Bai Weiwei. Celestial Master Gu Yan also sent news about the frozen immortal sect. Xia Xing was confused. Celestial Master Gu Yan has never contacted the four cardinal scales. Where did half-ancestor Ziheng get this information from? Xia Yan told me directly, Xia Ziheng explained patiently. Even though he was a half-ancestor, he was from a branch family, while Xia Xing was the master of Celestial Master Gu Yan. The difference in status was huge. He could use his half-ancestor cultivation to bridge the gap, but he couldn't order Xia Xing around like he could others. Half-ancestor Xia Yan? Xia Xing thought about it and contacted the battlefield. Xia Ziheng's expression turned ugly. He didn't trust him, but there was nothing he could do. Not long after, Xia Xing put down the cloud stone and analyzed the situation that Xia Yan and Xia Ziheng had told him. If this information was true, then the situation was indeed serious. The internal struggle of the four cardinal scales was becoming more and more intense. If Long Qi hadn't killed Bai Xiaohong and Bai Xiener hadn't broken through, the three families would have been suppressed. If Celestial Master Gu Yan joined the frozen immortal sect, it would have been a huge blow to them. Not only that, but he also had to consider Celestial Master Gu Yan's reputation. Yu Hao couldn't fall into the hands of the frozen immortal sect, or everyone would laugh at Celestial Master of the Celestial Tree. Celestial Master Gu Yan's used Xia Xia to scheme against the Yu family to intimidate the Starry Sky Tree, but in the end, it had to help Celestial Ice Master. To Xia Ziheng. Celestial to make a promise. Xia Xia's words is to. Xian's to make. To say to make that to be to change. By. To say to the of the to make. Xia im of him. To use to make, to make. Xia Dao to make. In the face of the frozen immortal sect's pressure, Xia Xing didn't hesitate. He left Celestial Master Gu Yan and headed for the middle realm. Celestial Master Gu Yan had to remain neutral, or he had to be part of the Xia family. Otherwise Xia Xing couldn't accept it. Beside the lake, Lu Yin smiled as he faced the many doubtful gazes. That's why some ancient records might not be fake. I've been flipping through a large number of books in the library, and I've finally confirmed a place. It's Mount Mang in the Blue Moon District. Back then, Progenitor One encountered something in Huayuan that no one else knows about, but to us, anything that happened to Progenitor One is something that we need to know. Sir, are you going to investigate Mount Mang? Nong Xingyang raised her hand. Lu Yin smiled. Welcome aboard. Stay tuned and subscribe to Han Li's Wuxia Adventures for more thrilling content. Chapter 2210. It was one thing for the Unbounded to be an assassin organization, but the most important thing was that they clearly knew who the Redbacks were and who the spies were, but they did not do anything about it. They only cared about their own interests, and once the humans were defeated, they would definitely side with the Eternals, just like Celestial Do. This was something that Lu Yin hated the most, as they were quasi-traitors. While Xia Xing was being assassinated far away in the Blue Moon District, a good show was also playing out. Yu Hao, who was disguised by his pupil, had a conflict with the Xia family in the Blue Moon District, and the conflict was not small. The Xia family had many branches in the starry sky of trees. Most large families were like this. There was also a Xia family branch in the Green Moon District, and the family head was Xia Ru. Back when they had escaped from the astral trees, Xia Ru and the others had used him to reach the cloud ladder. Because of this, Xia Ru had been severely punished by Shenwu Plain. But this was not the most miserable thing. Xia Ru himself did not know that his sworn brother Zhu Xian had an affair with his wife. This time he had asked Tong Yu to disguise herself as Yu Hao and deliberately pass by Xia Ru's location to create a conflict. Not only did he want Nong Xinyang to be a witness, but he also wanted Xia Ru and the rest to be witnesses. Otherwise, if the Xia family suspected that he had something to do with Xia Xing's accident, even if it was just a little, he would not be able to bear the consequences. Yu Hao's identity could not be compromised for the time being. Yu Hao, you've gone too far. Xia Ru glared at the young man in front of him and roared. This person was none other than Yu Hao, who was disguised as Mr. Hao Yu in Nong Xinyang's eyes. Now Nong Xinyang was stunned. Yu Hao, Mr. was actually that Yu Hao. How could she not know about Yu Hao? The four-way scales had used the Yu family as a deterrent to the Starry Sky Tree, mainly to intimidate the Lu family, and other large families that supported the Lu family. They couldn't touch these large families, but they didn't want them to help the surviving members of the Lu family. This was the reason why the Yu family was involved. Nong Xinyang had heard the rumors about Yu Hao, and she had heard more than one version. She sympathized with Yu Hao but also despised him. A man was bullied by Xia Zhitong to such an extent, and in the end he even committed suicide. How useless. Even if she was beaten to death, she would never have thought that the Mr. Hao Yu she respected was actually that Yu Hao. Xia Ru knew Yu Hao, which was why this happened. Otherwise, it would be meaningless to find trouble with Xia Ru and the others. It was time for Yu Hao's identity to be made public. Tong Yu disguised herself as Yu Hao and stared coldly at Xia Ru. Have you forgotten what happened back then? Xia Ru's face was ugly. He glanced at his wife with a guilty conscience and shouted, Yu Hao, what exactly do you want? Kneel, Tong Yu said calmly. Xia Ru's expression changed. To the side, Madame Xia and Zhu Xian looked at each other. Zhu Xian stepped forward and said, Yu Hao, no matter what happened back then, you are still part of the Xia family. Tong Yu casually tapped with her hand, and her astral source wiped out the star energy within Zhu Xian's body. Zhu Xian was sent flying and he crashed heavily onto the ground. You don't have the right to speak. Dozens of years ago, Zhu Xian had reached the critical point of breaking through to become an emissary. However, even now he had not dared to break through. This kind of thing was very common. It was normal for many cultivators to drag it out for hundreds or even thousands of years. Whether it's sad or happy, it's all history. We have to be responsible for it, which is why we have this exploration course. However, we will not be trapped in history. The greatest strength of humans is their intelligence, and they will improve. Nong Xinyang looked at Lu Yin's back with a complicated expression. Improvement? Could this person's history be forgotten so easily? Lu Yin suddenly turned around and smiled at her. Are you willing to tell me about how you wet your bed when you were young? Nong Xinyang's face immediately turned red. What? What do you mean by that? Lu Yin smiled. Should I look at the current you or the past you? Nong Xinyang's heart trembled, and the confusion she had felt over the past few days instantly disappeared. The knot in her heart was untied and a smile appeared on her face. I understand, sir. Lu Yin smiled. Although I didn't gain anything this time, extracurricular practice is still a compulsory course for students. Go back. Right, don't be stingy with your credits. Nong Xinyang nodded and her eyes darted around. Sir, you actually went to the Blue Moon District on purpose, right? Lu Yin's gaze turned cold and he instantly disappeared without being seen through. What do you mean? You actually wanted to go to the Blue Moon District. They want to cause trouble for the Xia clan in the Green Moon District. Am I right? Nong Xinyang asked with interest. Lu Yin's lips curled up. Guess for yourself. He then left. Nong Xinyang stared at Lu Yin's departing figure for a long time before slapping her face. What does my past have to do with you? Xinyang, don't think too much, she muttered to herself but then contacted someone. Brother, I've been bullied. Who is it? Xia Zhitong, I'm going to cause trouble for her. On the other side, after Lu Yin returned to the stone pillar, he took out his gadget and inserted a crystal card into it. A video appeared showing the entire process of Yu Hao pretending to be Yu Hao and causing trouble for Xiaoru. This was something Lu Yin had prepared to prevent himself from being investigated by Shenwu Plain. He wanted to ensure that he really did cause trouble for the Xia family, and he couldn't miss out on any details. Xia Xing had come to the Central Realm because of him, and there was no shortage of smart people anywhere. Shenwu Plain might shift their attention to him, so he couldn't be suspected for the time being. As for Xia Xing, he wasn't in a hurry to make a move. He was afraid that this person had some undetectable method to leave traces behind in Shenwu Plain. Xia Xing had gone out alone, so news of his death didn't quickly reach Shenwu Plain. However, as the leader of one of the 4 Libras, it was abnormal for him to disappear for several days in a row. Finally, on the 3rd day after Xia Xing was captured, Shen Wu Plain fully investigated the path he had taken. Countless people from the 4 Libras focused their attention on the border between Huayuan and Blue Moon. Xia Xing had been ambushed there. The area where Xia Xing had been ambushed had obvious traces of battle, and the void was still unstable. If not for the fact that the central realm was so large, attacking Xia Xing would have attracted the attention of experts. Xia Ziheng calmly looked at the mother tree. Around him, a group of cultivators from Shenwu Plain had sealed off the void and were constantly investigating something. After a while, an elder reported in a low voice, "It's boundless. There's still traces of the black net's poison in the void, and from the traces, it's the usual method of ambushing experts." Xia Ziheng frowned. "Is there someone in Boundless who can deal with Sect Master?" "I don't know. Boundless has always been mysterious. They even dared to enter the frigid immortal sect to assassinate you. As long as the price is high enough, there's nothing they won't do," the elder said. However, he soon grew suspicious. Lu Yin had been right to be cautious. Fortunately, he had not released Xia Xing after capturing him. Otherwise, the main body would have been able to sense where he was, and that would have been dangerous. "I can't feel it. The person who captured my clone was very careful. My clone is trapped, but it shouldn't be dead. Otherwise, I would have been injured," Xia Xing's main body said. Xia Ziheng's eyes narrowed. "It was premeditated. Not only did they know where you were, but they also knew that it was a clone. Otherwise, why would they have trapped you?" "That's right. If it really was the cold immortal sect, then this wouldn't be all they have. Celestial Master Gu Yen and the Star Alliance aren't enough for them to suppress the other 3 clans. They definitely have other methods," Xia Xing said as he looked in the direction of the cold immortal sect. On the astral tree, there was a place in the sky that resembled a paradise. There was no cultivation or war here, and the people here lived on an island surrounded by a giant lake. Although it was called an island, that was only relative to the lake. In reality, the island was very large and the lake was large enough to nurture a civilization. This place was called Crow Village, and it was a place where fighting and killing did not exist. In the sky, birds were flying in flocks. On the ground, the people in the village were working hard. It was peaceful. Outside the lake, there was a strange burning horse. It was huge. Every once in a while, it would run from one end of the lake to the other. The fire it brought would come closer and closer. This was the daily routine of the people in Wu Village. Every time the flaming horse ran a lap, they would experience a day. This had been going on for a very long time, and there was not just one flaming horse. There was a group of them and they lit up the entire village. On this day, a group of flaming horses ran to the top of the lake. They stepped on flames and brought light to Crow Village. In the fields, many people patted their collars to get rid of the smell of sweat. They walked to the fields to drink water, and from time to time, laughter and fighting could be heard. It was originally a normal day, and to the people of Crow Village this was the most ordinary day. However, when a figure tore through the void and raised his hand to crush the group of flaming horses into a pool of blood, this day changed and it became no longer ordinary. On the ground, in the fields, beside the river, and outside the thatched huts, there was blood everywhere, and there was also the wailing of flaming horses. In the sky, Xia Ziheng looked down at Crow Village. Who would have thought that the headquarters of the largest assassin intelligence organization, the Unbounded, would be here? Today, my Shenwu Heaven will remove the Unbounded from the astral tree. After he finished speaking, he raised his hand and pressed down. The vast astral source turned into a mountain and pressed down on the entire island and the surrounding lake. No one could escape. Welcome aboard. Stay tuned and subscribe to Han Li's Wuxia Adventures for more thrilling content. Chapter 2216. When the bottle was opened, Xia Xing felt a faint connection with the blood. He was in disbelief as this blood was connected by blood. Regardless of whether or not this blood belonged to progenitor Qin, he was certain that it came from the same source as the blood in his body. They both belonged to the Xia family. Whose blood is this? Xia Xing asked in shock as he stared at Lu Yin. Lu Yin replied, "I said that it belongs to progenitor Qin." "Impossible, progenitor Qin has never been to the astral trees. During the Daosor sect's era, progenitor Qin died during the decisive battle between the 5th and 6th mainlands." Lu Yin laughed. "Since progenitor Qin has never been to the astral trees, how can you know if he's dead or alive?" Xia Xing wanted to say something but he couldn't. He knew the truth about progenitor Qin, but he had never truly come into contact with that era, so he didn't feel much about him. Besides, progenitor Qin was a taboo in the Xia family, and he had never thought that he would come into contact with progenitor Qin's blood one day. Xia Xing stared at the blood in a daze, not knowing if he really didn't believe that this was progenitor Qin's blood or if he just didn't want to believe it. Progenitor Qin's name was Xia Shang, and he came from the Xia family of Shenwu continent, Lu Yin said slowly. He was a progenitor of your Xia family, and he was a truly invincible powerhouse of that era. Xia Xing's eyes flickered, and he couldn't help but look at Lu Yin. You want to use this blood to exchange for the seal technique? Lu Yin shook his head, and under Xia Xing's confused gaze he slowly said, I won't exchange the seal technique. Instead, I'll give you a chance to escape. Absorb this blood and you might be able to escape from me. Xia Xing didn't understand. Why are you doing this? Lu Yin smiled and tossed the blood to Xia Xing, who caught it. Absorb it. Let me see how strong the Xia family's patriarch will become after absorbing progenitor Qin's blood, Lu Yin said. Xia Xing couldn't understand Lu Yin. He had progenitor Qin's blood, but he didn't want to exchange it and had instead given it to him. However, the temptation of this blood was obvious. Whether or not it was progenitor Qin's blood, it was definitely the blood of a progenitor of the Xia family, and it would be useful to him. Xia Xing had been in charge of the divine martial heaven for many years and was a decisive person. He was not an indecisive person. After pondering for a moment, he crushed the bottle and began to absorb ancestor Qin's blood. Lu Yin looked at Xia Xing strangely. Was he the kind of person who would help others? Of course not. He wasn't a battle maniac. Fighting Xia Xing, who had absorbed progenitor Qin's blood, wasn't a reason. The real reason was that he wanted to free Xia Xing's clone from the main body's control. Although he didn't understand the 9 clones, he could tell from Xia Jiuyo's ability to absorb the other clones apart from Xia Luo that the clones weren't afraid of death. Xia Xing had just said that he didn't care about death. These clones were like puppets. Would temptations and threats work on a puppet? Even if he acted like he was being seduced or even threatened, Lu Yin still wouldn't believe him. He would rather believe that these doppelgangers did everything for the sake of the main body. Since that was the case, he would let these clones break away from the main body. This was equivalent to creating a main body for Xia Xing, just like Xia Jiuyo and Xia Luo. He didn't know how Xia Luo did it, but there was a 90% chance that Xia Xing's clone would change his mind after absorbing progenitor Qin's blood. Lu Yin and Mr. White arrived and looked at the planet. Lu Yin's eyes lit up when he saw the boundless star essence. Bai Weiwei was unwilling. I'm the most outstanding disciple of this generation of the Frozen Immortal sect, and I'm as strong as the Frozen Immortal sect's junior ancestor Bai Xiaohong. Can't I enter the minor ancestor planet? A man walked out from the minor ancestor planet. It was the senior from Skybearing who had been guarding the planet. Every minor ancestor planet was protected by several emissaries, including a cultivator with 6 origin tribulations and 2 or 3 emissaries. This senior from Skybearing was a cultivator with 6 origin tribulations. He met Bai Weiwei's gaze. I would like to let you in, but the rules cannot be broken. If they are broken, I will bear the responsibility unless you obtain the Frozen Immortal sect's sect master's approval. They weren't guarding the minor ancestor planet to retire, but rather to curry favor with the junior ancestor. The junior ancestor had a high chance of becoming a progenitor in the future, and this was an opportunity that countless people could only dream of. Bai Weiwei. She was the most outstanding disciple of this generation of the Frozen Immortal sect, and even a cultivator with 6 origin tribulations wanted to curry favor with her. It was impossible for the senior to advance any further, but if he could serve a future progenitor, his status would soar, and it might even be possible for his cultivation to advance. Thus his words were not false. He also hoped that Bai Weiwei could enter the minor ancestor planet and give him hope, but the rules were the rules. Bai Weiwei frowned. If you let me in, I'll owe you a favor. The senior shook his head helplessly. I'm sorry. He wasn't betting on a generation. With his cultivation he could live for a long time. As long as he guarded the minor ancestor planet, he could always meet a genius with the highest chance of becoming a progenitor in the future. It was not worth it to be expelled from the minor ancestor planet because of breaking the rules. Bai Weiwei's words were useless and she could only leave helplessly. This trip to Wangyu had yielded nothing except for a glimpse of the ancestral gazing tower. On the paper boat, Bai Weiwei was unwilling. If it weren't for the fact that we were a few decades late, it might not have been Bai Xiaohong's turn. Lu Yin raised an eyebrow. In his opinion, Bai Xiaohong was much more powerful than Bai Weiwei. Did these people really think that the fourth junior ancestor relied on luck? Wrong. Without a certain level of cultivation, even if one became the strongest disciple of the frozen immortal sect, they wouldn't be able to stand in front of the other three juniors. The fourth junior ancestor relied on strength. If Bai Weiwei was in Bai Xiaohong's era, she would at most be on the same level as Nong Sanyang and Lu Hao. It would be difficult for her to catch up to the fourth junior ancestor. The sky over the Zhongping Ocean darkened, and a glowing silver fish rushed out from the bottom of the sea, shooting out rays of light. On the paper boat, Mr. Bai's face paled. Not good, it's a fourth-stage origin tribulation life form. Lu Yin hurriedly arranged a sourcebox array to block the rays of light while Mr. Bai and Bai Weiwei worked together. It took them almost an hour to repel the silver fish. When the sky returned to normal, Mr. Bai was almost exhausted, and Bai Weiwei was gasping for breath. Lu Yin spat out a mouthful of blood. Bai Weiwei and Mr. Bai hurriedly supported him. Mr. Haoyu, how are you? Lu Yin's expression was ugly, and he kept coughing up blood. A fourth-stage origin tribulation life form. I barely managed to support the sourcebox array, but I was also severely injured. I won't be able to help you for the next few days. Bai Weiwei was grateful. If not for Mr. Haoyu, we would have died. Sir, please heal yourself. If not for the everlasting tribe, the desolate ancestor and progenitor Chen alone would have been enough to destroy the sixth mainland. Lu Yin had witnessed the desolate ancestor's miraculous techniques, but he also felt that it was strange that his heart could contain the time-withered wood. If this could be tolerated, then what else could not be tolerated? How could it be tolerated? Did he cultivate some kind of strange power? Lu Yin closed his eyes and rested for a while before opening them again. He raised his foot and took a step forward. The void distorted and shattered as he approached it. This was not tearing the void apart, but rather reversing it. Although the time-withered wood was not the power of time, the moment it entered his body, the time-withered would reverse time, allowing Lu Yin to truly feel the power of time. Yes, he could feel the power of time, but he could not use it directly. However, using time reversal was a different story. Progenitor Chen could use time reversal to reverse the void, and Lu Yin could do the same. Suddenly, Lu Yin thought of Progenitor Chen. Something was not right. He could feel Wendy Yushan's power of time, but he could not use it. Now he could only use time-withered wood to touch time, allowing time reversal to reach the level of reversing the void. Progenitor Chen had been able to do this when he was a peak enlighter, so could it be that he had also grasped the power of time? It was not impossible, as otherwise, Progenitor Chen would not have been able to use time reversal as an enlighter. Lu Yin had used the planned secret art reversal move, but he could only reverse space and not time. No matter how talented Progenitor Chen was, it was impossible for him to achieve such a feat. The only explanation was that he had already touched upon the domain of time. When Progenitor Chen had gone through the emissary origin tribulation, only 8 of his clones had appeared, and there was still a 9th that had not appeared. What kind of power did that clone possess? Progenitor Desolate was so powerful, and his time-withered wood could reverse time. The symbol progenitor was so mysterious that he could use the Ian Flow scripture at any time to create something out of nothing. Progenitor Hui could see through everything and had unparalleled wisdom. The fog progenitor was not bad either, as he could create emissaries with a minimally invasive technique that was all-pervasive. There was also Lu Tianyi, an absolute powerhouse who had been a Daozi back in the Above Heaven era. There were also the Bai and Wang families from the frigid immortal sect. Even so, the most dazzling figure of that era had still been Progenitor Chen. Why was Progenitor Chen the most dazzling? Was it really because he kept a low profile? Was it because Progenitor Hui did not compete? Was it because the symbol progenitor was indifferent to fame and fortune? Not necessarily. How big is the ancestor realm and half-ancestor realm? The difference? This wasn't something that could be measured by a few times, as even 10 half-ancestors wouldn't be a match for a single progenitor. Of course, freaks like Bai Xiener and Qing Ping were exceptions. This is this junior's unique innate gift, which allows me to use star essence to improve the performance of certain items. With Lu Yin's current height, there were some things that needed to be slowly explained, and some things that needed to be exposed. He suspected that people had long since guessed that his innate gift could improve external objects. He had used the giant's arm that he had obtained from the warehouse at the border of Endless Weave, and many other things had become inconceivable in his hands. He believed that more and more people would be able to guess his innate gift. The die had 6 pips. 2 had been used to decompose materials, which had been exposed in the technocracy. 3 had been used to improve external objects, which could be analyzed by many people. 5 had been used to borrow another person's innate gift, which could be easily exposed if he used it too many times. As for the 6th, Tiendo knew about it. Although he was already dead, Blacklist had been involved, so it wasn't impossible for him to guess. The Dai's 6 pips were all exposed and Lu Yin didn't plan on hiding them. The mist ancestor looked at Lu Yin in amazement. You have such an innate gift? How mysterious. Even old Fu isn't as mysterious as you. Lu Yin was helpless. Although it's mysterious, it consumes too many resources. Senior, you should know how the resources on Junior Progenitor Planet were used up, right? The mist ancestor nodded, and his eyes were filled with curiosity. Show us your innate gift. Lu Yin shrugged. I can't. Once I use it, I have to rest for a very long time. Otherwise it'll be too abnormal. That's true. The universe is conserved, and there's no such thing as an innate gift that can't be solved. Alright, then does that mean that this needle of yours can break through micro as much as possible? How much can it break through? The mist ancestor asked. Lu Yin replied, this junior isn't sure and I'll have to try to find out. Senior, there's not much time left, so please capture Bai Teng as soon as possible. Otherwise, once he lands on the island, this junior will be exposed to Long Ku, and that will be troublesome. The mist ancestor rolled his eyes. Kid, you should be happy that 9 mountains and 8 seas is doing this for you. He then left the mirror. Lu Yin relaxed as this person was becoming more and more difficult to please. Beneath the desolate island, Bai Teng floated up slightly. Where did that kid go? He gripped his cosmic ring tightly. If the resources on Junior Progenitor Planet had really been stolen by this kid, then there had to be an absolute powerhouse behind him. However, Bai Teng had not dared to come here unprepared. The progenitor item that the Patriarch had given him was enough for him to protect himself, and he had also reported everything to the Patriarch. Lu Yin nodded. He had decided to disguise himself as Xia Yuan and approach Wang Zheng to see if there was a chance for him to obtain the seal. This was much better than entering the Wang family's continent without knowing anything. Elder Qingxing had said that the ball of light on the Wang family's continent had burned a progenitor to death. Lu Yin did not think that he had the ability to force his way into the Wang family's continent. The White Dragon clan's people arrived 2 days later, and Lu Yin was surprised to see that it was Long Tian. He had thought that it would be a branch family member like Xia Yuan, but it was actually Long Tian. Of the 4 young ancestors, Bai Xiaohong had died and Wang Su had been locked up on the 5th continent. Lu Yin had met Xia Xinfei and Long Tian from the Astral Tree. Apart from Long Tian, there was another expert from the branch family of the White Dragon clan who was at the 3rd origin tribulation stage. His cultivation was not bad, comparable to Xia Yuan's. Long Tian's cultivation was the same as Xia Xinfei's, at the 1st origin tribulation stage. The 4 young ancestors of the Starry Sky Tree were all 1st tribulation origin realm cultivators. Wu Taibai, who used to be the 6th mainland's Tao Source 3 Heavens, was infinitely close to becoming an astral envoy. Those elites of Hua Mavis were unable to cultivate, otherwise they would be about the same as Wu Taibai. According to the Wheel of Eras, the most powerful were still the Tao children of above heaven. Those Tao children were all at the 2nd or 3rd origin tribulation stage. He wondered what it would be like to bring the Daozi of the above heaven era to the Starry Sky Tree to compete with these peerless geniuses. Longtian's innate gift was grasp, which allowed him to grasp space. It was similar to a domain that had been cultivated to the Void God realm. Lu Yin wanted to see Longtian's expression when faced with Chu Yuan's innate gift of time. Brother Xiao, we meet again. The cultivator from the White Dragon race recognized Xia Yuan and greeted him. Lu Yin was afraid that he would say something wrong, so he coughed and said, "Let's set off as soon as possible. I'm injured, and it's inconvenient to delay any further." Long Tian frowned. "Since you're injured, why would Shenwu Heaven let you come? Is there no one else you can use?" Lu Yin expressed his dissatisfaction, but he also looked a little sullen. "There are many experts in Shenwu Heaven, but we need to be wary of some people. Isn't that why you're here? Even if the frigid immortal sect wants to make a move against our 3 families, they won't be able to do it so quickly. They don't have overwhelming strength and the ancestors are still watching. Your Xia family is becoming more and more cautious." Long Tian didn't hold back. To put it nicely, he was being cautious, but to put it bluntly, he was being timid. Lu Yin didn't know why Long Tian was being so rude to the Xia family, but he coldly replied, "It's inconvenient for me to be injured. When we get to the Wang family, I hope that young ancestor Long can say a few more words and let the Wang family see the current threat." Long Tian didn't say anything else. He had his reasons for being so rude to the Xia family. Back then, Lu Shaoxin had disguised himself as Long Qi and been chosen by Emperor Ni to marry Xia Taili. Not only had he neglected his sister, Long Shi, but he had also given up on his father, Long Ku, which was equivalent to giving up on his bloodline. The Xia family had actually agreed. If they hadn't found out that Long Qi was Lu Shaoxin, even if he had returned safely from the sovereign realm, the main bloodline might not have been the main bloodline. He didn't know whether Long Shi was alive or dead, and his father had been captured by the frigid immortal sect. He was in a terrible mood, and Xia Shenfei had also been a spy in the boundless realm and had contributed greatly to the astral trees. Xia Shenfei's reputation had completely overshadowed Long Tian's, which made him rather depressed. Now, Long Tian urgently needed to rescue his father and regain the dignity of the main bloodline. He wanted to contribute even more, and he didn't want to be left behind by Xia Shenfei. This was the main reason why he had come to the Wang family's continent. He wanted to lead the White Dragon clan and the Wang family in an alliance against the frigid immortal sect. "Are you the only one from Shenwu Heaven?" the expert from the White Dragon clan asked. Lu Yin replied, "It's useless even if more came. The Lei family can only bring 2 people to the Wang family's continent." Long Tian looked at Lei Wu outside. "Let's not waste any more time. To reach the Wang family's continent from the city below, one had to either fly up directly or pass through a light pillar. There were dozens of light pillars that connected the sky and the ground below the Wang family's continent, and Lei Wu led Lu Yin and Long Tian down this path. Not just anyone could reach the Wang family's continent. Aside from the direct descendants of the Wang family and the cultivators who had joined the Wang family as vassals, only a few small families who were in charge of purchasing items for the Wang family's continent could reach the continent. Lei Wu could enter and leave freely because he was in charge of purchasing seasoning for the Wang family's continent. Seasoning wasn't an important resource, which was why Lei Wu had been able to pay the price to get this job. Otherwise he wouldn't have been able to do it. Lu Yin and Long Tian followed Lei Wu to the Wang family's continent without any obstructions. The other White Dragon clan cultivators stayed behind with the Lei family. Lu Yin grew even more curious and he slowly said, "I know the rules of the Wang family, but sometimes rules can be broken." The Wang family cultivator frowned, but he did not say anything else. In any case, no miner could leave this region. Xiao Ken's back was facing Lu Yin and his eyes flickered. "Tell me about it." "Perhaps I can help you," Lu Yin said again. The Wang family cultivator did not refute this time, as he did not want to say anything more. This person from the Xia family was too impudent. Even the sect master of the divine martial sect would not be able to take this miner away from the Wang family's continent. Xiao Ken turned back to look at Lu Yin. "Why do you want to help me?" Lu Yin replied, "I didn't say that I'd definitely help you. I'm just curious as to why you're here. Also, if I remember correctly, you traded away an intelligence root." Xiao Ken laughed and shook his head. "I've already said that the Wang family has already squeezed out all of my value. They took everything from me, including the intelligence root that I hid away. If that's your condition for helping me, then I'm sorry." "If I wasn't waiting for you, this old man would have gone in long ago." "You can enter?" "Of course. How else would I get it out?" Lu Yin pursed his lips and followed behind Kue Luo. He saw a loophole in Yixian Academy's sourcebox array and successfully entered. After entering, he saw enormous branches drooping down and covering Yixian Academy. Many of the places where classes had been held had been destroyed by the branches, including the lake. However, the stone pillars hadn't been damaged, and they had been positioned to avoid the destruction. It was as if they had been set up beforehand. Many students had been gathered in the middle of the pillars by the mentors. Lu Yin saw Mr. Wei, Mr. Zheng and the rest, as well as Lu Xiaoge, who was disguised as Yu Hao. However, he didn't see Wu Taibai, nor did he see Xia Shenfei and the rest among the students. He turned around and saw a looming mountain with an ocean beneath it that had once covered a large area of Yixian Academy. There was a mountain and an ocean here, but why did it seem so familiar? Was this a mountain sea? "Old man, could this be the legendary mountain sea that Yixian Academy controls?" Lu Yin asked. Kue Luo shook his head. "I don't know. In any case, Xian Academy definitely has something that attracted the four-way scales. It could be a secret technique, the progenitor of literature scriptures, or it could really be a mountain sea. If it really is a mountain sea, then who knows who it once belonged to. Lu Yin's heart skipped a beat, and he took out his mirror and called for the Mist Ancestor. The Mist Ancestor had wanted to throw a tantrum when she came out of the mirror. She had made some progress in her research on the blood refinement technique, but Lu Yin kept interrupting her. However, when she came out, she immediately realized that something was wrong. A mountain sea? Lu Yin and Kue Luo both stared at her. Is this really a mountain sea? The Mist Ancestor nodded. It can't be wrong. This is the feeling of a mountain sea. Whose mountain sea? Lu Yin asked. The Mist Ancestor rolled her eyes. How would I know? I can't enter someone else's mountain sea to take a look. At this point, Lu Yin asked, Senior, do you know the battle techniques that the 9 mountains and 8 seas inherited? The Mist Ancestor thought for a moment. I know a few, but most of them are hidden. Some people even think of ways to hide their battle techniques. They're very sinister, like Old Fu. No one knows what his mountain sea battle technique is. Huiwen's mountain sea battle technique is related to fire, but no one knows the specifics. Only Xia Shang goes around showing off like a rich man, but he only shows off one type of battle technique. He controls 2 mountains and 1 sea, and there's another battle technique that no one knows about. By Wang Yuan, Wang Fan, and the others are all sinister and won't say anything. What about Patriarch Lu Tianyi? Lu Yin asked. The Mist Ancestor shook her head. Kue Luo's last sentence was directed at Lu Yin. Lu Yin was speechless. You could have told me earlier. I remember telling you. I don't remember. Lu Yin was really curious as to how the four-way scales had exiled the Lu family. The General Appointment Platform, the Divine Seal Catalog, and the Lu family's henchmen. He had no doubt that the Lu family had the terrifying strength to destroy the four-way scales, but they had still been exiled in the end. No matter how he thought about it, it didn't seem right. However, it would be soon. Once he rescued the Star Alliance in the Red Garden and returned to the Fifth Mainland, the new Sky Corridor would be almost completed. At that time, he would bring the Fifth Mainland's forces to settle the score with the four-way scales. He definitely wasn't a match for the four-way scales in the Cosmic Tree, as they had several progenitors. However, the four-way scales' determination to kill him was enough to lure them to the Fifth Mainland. Let's go and see whose mountain sea this is, the Fog Ancestor said. Lu Yin immediately headed towards the mountain. Although the mountain sea was huge, Lu Yin's group quickly approached the mountain. They stopped in front of the mountain. Above the ocean, 3 figures stood guard in 3 different directions, blocking everyone who approached the mountain. Xian Academy's Mountain Sea. The four-way scales cared so much about Xian Academy's Mountain Sea. Now that Xian Academy's Mountain Sea had appeared, even if the four-way scales were in chaos, they could not ignore it. But after waiting for a few days and attending 2 classes, there was still no movement from the four-way scales. Thus, he decided to have a chat with Bai Teng and the others so that they could reveal the seal as soon as possible. Who would have thought that one day the sect masters of the four-way scales would gather and be imprisoned on a mountain? Lu Yin looked at Bai Teng, who was trapped in front of him, and then at Xia Xing's clone Wang Zheng and Long Ku. A sense of pride spread through his heart. Today he could capture the sect master of the four-way scales. Tomorrow he might be able to capture the four-way scales ancestor. In the past, the Lu family had controlled the Fifth Mainland. The Divine Investiture Catalog had conferred titles on the living. Lu Yin could do the same. As the way slowly dissipated, Bai Teng regained his freedom. He opened his eyes and saw Lu Yin. At this moment, Lu Yin was not using his original appearance. If he had used his real identity to talk to Bai Teng, there would have been nothing to talk about. He had a grudge against Bai Teng for killing his son, and Bai Teng would not tell him the seal no matter what. Thus, Lu Yin disguised himself as a stranger, a very ordinary stranger. Bai Teng stared at the stranger in front of him, and his eyes flickered as he tried to recall where he had seen this person before. He wanted to investigate this person's identity. There's no need to look. I've never appeared in any of your reports. However, I should be interacting with the four-way scales from now on, Lu Yin said slowly. Bai Teng's expression darkened. Who are you? Are you the one who captured me? Lu Yin clasped his hands behind his back. Have you heard of the Broken Ease Society? Bai Teng's eyes went wide. You're from the Broken Ease Society? Lu Yin had originally wanted to impersonate someone from the Broken Ease Society to talk to Bai Teng, but since he had to, Bai Teng was the sect master of the Frigid Immortal sect, not an ordinary person. Lu Yin was worried that Bai Teng would link him to a remnant of the Lu family, which would be troublesome. He did not have the ability to capture another member of the upper echelon of the frigid immortal sect, so Bai Teng was his only chance. However, from the looks of it, Bai Teng seemed to know about the Broken East Society. Who knew how much Bai Teng knew about the Broken East Society? There was definitely someone supporting the Broken East Society. Could it be Bai Teng? Lu Yin hurriedly said, "I was tasked by the Broken East Society to capture you." Bai Teng's expression changed. "The Broken East Society sent you to capture me?" Lu Yin remained calm. Even if Bai Teng really was controlling the Broken East Society from behind the scenes, there would still be traitors. Bai Teng's expression turned ugly. "Who told you to capture me?" "I don't know. A young man called Zhuoshan came looking for me and paid a price, which is why I took the risk to capture you. The outside world is in chaos right now, and the frigid immortal sect is frantically searching for you. But don't get your hopes up, they won't be able to find you." Bai Teng's gaze turned cold. Zhuoshan was indeed a member of the Broken East Society, and he was the nephew of the Left Order Master. Lu Yin's guess was correct, as Zhuoshan did indeed know a lot about the Broken East Society. However, he did not control the Broken East Society from behind the scenes. As the puppet sect master of the frigid immortal sect, Bai Teng always wanted to control the frigid immortal sect, and the Broken East Society was one of his partners. Welcome aboard. Stay tuned and subscribe to Han Li's Wuxia Adventures for more thrilling content. Chapter 2238. Bai Teng was enraged by Lu Yin's words. He hated being called a puppet the most, but just as he was about to retort, he suddenly thought of something and stared at Lu Yin. "Bai Su is the new sect master?" Lu Yin nodded. "He works well with your frigid immortal sect's half-ancestor Wu Yao, and he enjoys being the new sect master." Bai Teng clenched his fists. How could Bai Su be the new sect master? This person was even more of a puppet than he was. The frigid immortal sect had made Bai Su the new sect master without even thinking about saving him. The more he thought about it, the angrier Bai Teng became. He suddenly glared at Lu Yin. "What did the Duani Society give you?" "I'll give you double the benefits as long as you let me go. I'll even let you join the frigid immortal sect. You should know that my daughter is Bai Xiener." Lu Yin's expression changed at the mention of Bai Xiener's name, and his eyes filled with fear. "Everyone in the universe knows about Safflower Rain. If you dare to kill me, Bai Xiener won't let you go. Why do you think the Duani Society sent you? They have many experts, and Elder Chiu is a half-ancestor who can easily capture me. They sent you as a scapegoat to appease Bai Xiener's anger." Lu Yin frowned. "I can tell Bai Xiener that the Duan-E Society sent me." "You're too naive. The Duan-E Society's influence is too great. They'll know that Bai Xiener has come out of seclusion and make you lose the chance to blame them." "You can't do that," Bai Teng threatened. "Do you really think you can get the benefits of capturing me?" "Impossible, Elder Chiu won't give you that chance." Lu Yin's eyes flashed and he was clearly convinced. If the frigid immortal sect can't find out, how can Bai Xiener find out? Bai Teng shouted, "The world doesn't know that my daughter has a book that can see the past and the future. It's also because of that book that the Lu family—" He suddenly screamed at this point. Lu Yin's eyes narrowed and he reached out to grab him. "Continue." Bai Teng's face was pale and his body trembled. Blood flowed out of his eyes, nose and ears. There was a terrifying explosion in his body, and he spat out a mouthful of blood before he fainted. Lu Yin stared blankly. Bai Teng knew that Lu Yin knew about the Lu family situation back then, but Bai Teng had also been restricted from speaking about it. Bai Teng had only mentioned a little, but it had resulted in such a miserable state. He had always known that Bai Xiener had played a huge role in the Lu family's banishment, but after listening to Bai Teng's words, he realized that he had underestimated Bai Xiener's role. She had a book that could see the past and the future? Could it be the Book of Destiny? Bai Xiener, Safflower Rain, the Book of Destiny, and the truth behind the Lu family's banishment were getting closer and closer. However, Bai Teng could not reveal it. Lu Yin stood there quietly waiting for Bai Teng to wake up. Bai Teng was in a miserable state. His meridians were broken, his internal organs were shattered, and he was bleeding from his 7 orifices. However, he was an emissary, so these injuries were not enough to cripple him. As long as the stellar origin chi vortex was not broken, he would be fine. After a long time, Bai Teng woke up. He rubbed his head in pain and coughed up blood. Lu Yin looked at him. "Did you say something you shouldn't have?" Bai Teng's eyes flickered and were filled with fear. Could he really not say anything? Bai Xiener had warned him before, but he had thought that she was threatening him. He hadn't expected the consequences to be so severe. Did she even think of him as her father? She really wanted to kill him. At this moment, Bai Teng's heart was cold and filled with fear. Luin was impressed. Mr. Wei's spirit of historical research is admirable. Mr. Wei looked at Luin. Mr. Haoyu doesn't seem too interested in Progenitor 1. Luin replied, of course not. It's just that Progenitor 1 has existed for a long time, and it's too difficult to truly understand his life. I'm more interested in learning about the Flame Phoenix and the Dark Phoenix. There might be some clues here, Mr. Wei said before seriously studying the ancient texts. Luin looked at the side of her face. Mr. Wei was a woman disguised as a man, and her identity was mysterious. Luin wondered what it would be like for her to disguise herself as a woman. As he thought about it, he continued to stare at Mr. Wei. Mr. Wei didn't care about him at all, and he was completely focused on reading the ancient texts. On another stone pillar, when Zhao returned and saw this scene, and he found it strange. Mr. Tang also saw this and smiled. After a long time, Mr. Wei finally closed the ancient texts. She had been reading for a few hours before turning around to look at Luin. Luin looked at her for a few hours as well. The two looked at each other, speechless. Luin coughed. Are you done? Mr. Wei nodded with a natural expression. I'm done. There are no records of poems related to the Flame Phoenix and the Dark Phoenix. What a pity, Luin said. By the way, why is Mr. Wei so interested in history? Mr. Wei put the ancient texts away. Actually, I'm interested in one person, but to understand that person, I need to understand their entire history. Luin was surprised. Who? Welcome aboard. Stay tuned and subscribe to Han Li's Wuxia Adventures for more thrilling content. Chapter 2241. Under Lu Yin's gaze, Mr. Unwritten revealed a look of reverence. Ancestor Hui. Luin raised a brow. Ancestor Hui? Mr. Unwritten nodded. Although Ancestor Hui did not have the ability to divine, he could see through the past and present. He was the person I respected the most, and his deeds covered history. I want to understand him, and the more I know, the better. That's why I want to understand history and everything that Ancestor Hui has done. So Mr. Unwritten admires Ancestor Hui. Actually, I do as well, Luin said. Mr. Unwritten's eyes lit up. Why does Mr. Haoyu admire Ancestor Hui? Luin pointed in the direction of the mother tree. Unlimited kinetic energy. Mr. Unwritten was delighted. It's precisely because of unlimited kinetic energy that I decided to study Ancestor Hui. I wonder what kind of person could create a sourcebox array that protects humanity. It's said that the appearance of this region of space is related to Ancestor Hui. Although the four-way scale doesn't mention him much, his influence has spread throughout history. I've been to the battlefield on the other side, and countless people there worship Ancestor Hui. Those everlasting monsters also hate Ancestor Hui. It was obvious that Mr. Unwritten truly admired Ancestor Hui. She never stopped talking about him and told Luin everything she knew about him. Luin did not even have a chance to interrupt. But this was also good, as it would allow Luin to know how much Ancestor Hui had done in this region of space. Luin found it funny when he saw Mr. Unwritten's excited expression. If he took her to the fifth mainland one day and told her that Ancestor Hui had calculated time and destroyed the sixth mainland without expending a single soldier, he wondered how much she would respect him. Mr. Haoyu, I've actually been looking for you for a selfish reason. Mr. Unwritten went on and on about how she respected Ancestor Hui before hesitating for a moment. Luin was curious. What selfish reason? I want to learn lock breaking. Mr. Unwritten looked at Luin seriously. Luin was surprised. You want to learn lock breaking? Mr. Unwritten nodded. Ancestor Hui's greatest achievement, aside from helping humanity resist the everlasting, was his sourcebox array, especially unlimited kinetic energy. He's considered the first person in history to have done so. Even in the most ancient times, I don't believe that anyone could surpass Ancestor Hui in lock breaking. I want to learn lock breaking and get close to him, even if it's only a billionth of him. I'm not doing this out of selfishness. Regardless of whether you're a student or a mentor, everyone in the academy can teach each other. For example, I've asked Mr. Tang to teach me how to cultivate a domain void god. If you want to learn lock breaking, you can come directly to me. Then I'll have to thank you, Mr. Haoyu. Mr. Wei smiled happily. This was the first time he had seen her smile like this. Since Mr. Wei respects Ancestor Hui so much, do you know if Ancestor Hui is still alive? Luin asked. Mr. Wei shook his head. I only learned about the Hui ancestors passed through normal means. How could I know where the Hui ancestor was? However, I always believed that the Hui ancestor was still alive. What? Luin asked. Mr. Wei said, Hui Zhu is too smart. From what I've learned about Hui Zhu over the years, he likes to leave something behind. I believe he left something behind for himself as well. Holding back. Luin suddenly recalled the seal on the Royal Frost continent. That seal had definitely been left behind by the Hui ancestor, so what had the Hui ancestor left behind? There was also the space within the frigid immortal sect that was guarded by the Day-Night clan, which had also been sealed by the Hui ancestor. If the Hui ancestor had left something behind on the fifth mainland, then he might have left something behind in this part of the universe as well. Over the next few days, Xian Academy was very quiet, and it was not affected by the internal strife of the four-way scales. Xia Xingguang, Wang Xiaofan, and the others were the same as before. Luin found Bai Weiwei a few days later to discuss sourcebox arrays. At the same time, he also asked Bai Weiwei about the situation of the four-way scales. He was surprised to learn that the four-way scales actually believed that the god of Forgotten Ruins was the one who had captured Xia Xing and the others. This surprised Luin. How could the god of Forgotten Ruins be involved? He didn't dare ask Bai Weiwei for too much details, so he had Tong Yu purchase information outside. A few days later he finally learned about the general situation. Luin had to admit that he admired the Cold Immortal sect. They had successfully diverted the spearhead of Shenwu Celestial's three factions to the god of Forgotten Ruins, who had never appeared before. They had even exposed the fact that the god of Forgotten Ruins was Wang Miaomiao to gain the trust of the three factions and temporarily get them out of their predicament. Luin didn't know who had come up with this idea for them, but he had caused the three factions of Shenwu Celestial to have doubts and misunderstandings about the Cold Immortal sect. The Cold Immortal sect had used almost the same method to throw these suspicions at the god of Forgotten Ruins. He had done it unintentionally, and the reason why the effect had been so good was because the four-way scales were suspicious of each other. The Cold Immortal sect's move had been intentional. It was a good move. Luin admitted that he had never underestimated the four-way scales, but he also didn't care too much about the four-way scales. After all, his ability was too strange, but no matter how strange it was, there would always be someone who could resolve it. Suddenly he remembered what Wang Zheng had said before. He and Long Ku had discussed breaking up the Star Alliance. This way, even if the Cold Immortal sect really obtained the restrictions on the Star Alliance cultivators' bodies, it would be useless if they couldn't find the Star Alliance cultivators. If Wang Zheng could think of it, then the four-way scales could also think of it. This was troublesome. If they did this, then the restrictions he obtained would be useless. He had been too impatient, and the problem had been seen through from the beginning. Speaking of which, he could only blame himself. After capturing Xia Xing, he had deliberately mentioned the Star Alliance in order to make Xia Ziheng suspect that the Cold Immortal sect was behind it. Otherwise, Xia Ziheng might not have made the connection, and it might not have been exposed so early. Luin smiled bitterly. Others thought they were smart, but he was the same. If he schemed against others, there would be a day when he would be schemed against by others. He rubbed his head. Welcome aboard. Stay tuned and subscribe to Han Li's Wuxia Adventures for more thrilling content. Chapter 2245. Luin took a deep breath and stared at Xia Ziheng. I hope that all of my enemies will be there on that day. Not a single one will be missing, Xia Ziheng said before leaving. Before he left, he added, if you have any problems, go find Wu Taibai. He'll help you. From Xia Ziheng's point of view, Luin had already been labeled as a member of Shenwu Plain. Luin had no choice but to join Shenwu Plain. Xia Ziheng left, leaving Luin with a headache. Where was he supposed to invite Gu Yan to Shenwu Plain? Even if he had a way to get Gu Yan there, how was he supposed to get him to express his goodwill? This was simply impossible to achieve. Gu Yan had a strange temper, and Luin had seen it before. He hated the four-way scales even more, and it wasn't something that Luin could resolve. However, he could only grit his teeth and agree. Otherwise, he would be exposed even faster if Shenwu Plain contacted Gu Yan himself. There was also Wu Taibai. Xia Ziheng's last sentence had been a warning that Wu Taibai would keep an eye on him. Although Wu Taibai wasn't an envoy, he definitely had the power to fight one. After all, he had once been a supreme of Shenwu Plain. Perhaps in Xia Ziheng's eyes, Luin, who was an expert at lock-breaking, might not be able to escape Wu Taibai's surveillance. This was the four-way scale's confidence. Of course, Luin could escape Wu Taibai's surveillance, but he had many things to do. He had to roll his die and go into seclusion. There might be other things to do in the top realm, but he couldn't always guard against Wu Taibai. Wu Taibai was one of the instructors, so they would definitely live together. Since that was the case, Lu Yin had to make sure that Wu Taibai couldn't become one of the instructors. Lu Yin stared at the lake in a daze when a voice came from behind him. "Sir, please guide me again." It was Lu Quebec. He had been flicked away by Lu Yin's finger and couldn't even see clearly. Now that he had improved, he wanted to challenge Lu Yin again. At the very least, he wanted to see Lu Yin's moves. Lu Yin's gaze shifted, and he turned to face Lu Quebec. "You have perseverance, but you don't know your own limits." "I do," Lu Ke replied stiffly. "This time I can see your moves clearly." Lu Yin smiled. "What if you can't see clearly?" "If you can't see clearly, then you can't," Lu Ke replied naturally. Lu Yin shook his head. "It's annoying to be challenged all the time, especially when I'm enjoying the scenery." "What do you want, sir?" Lu Ke asked. Lu Yin replied, "Watch me clearly and I'll teach you a battle technique. Once you master it, you'll be able to reverse the void and break through all battle techniques. If you can't see it clearly, then you'll have to help me do something." Lu Ke's eyes lit up. "Chaotic void? Deciphering combat skills? What battle technique is that?" Lu Yin replied, "I can tell you if you win the bet, but you'll definitely lose." Behind Lu Ke, a long sword pierced through the scabbard. He raised his hand to grab the sword hilt, causing the rocks on the ground to rise up and shatter. The sharp aura caused the surroundings to distort. Lu Ke's body was faintly discernible. He was half a step into the stellar source universe and half a step outside. "Mister, you can try." "All right, I'm going to make a move. Watch carefully." Lu Yin stared at Lu Ke without moving. Suddenly, Lu Yin's voice rang out from behind Lu Quebec. "Did you see it clearly?" Lu Ke stared blankly at his fingers that were gripping the hilt of his sword. A very small stone was swaying in the wind. It wasn't there just a moment ago. He looked back at Lu Yin in shock. "Sir, your strength is unimaginable." Lu Yin laughed. "I used a battle technique that can distort the void. If even the void can be distorted, then what about your eyes?" Lu Ke's eyes lit up. Lu Ke had not told all the students not to choose Wu Taibai, but rather he had only searched for half of the students. The remaining students were afraid of offending Lu Ke by choosing Wu Taibai and causing him trouble, so they did not choose him. As for Xia Xingguang and the others, they did not participate in the voting at all, which resulted in Wu Taibai not receiving a single vote. Lu Yin and the rest of the instructors watched from a distance. He had not expected Lu Ke to be so ruthless and efficient. He recalled that Wu Taibai had specifically sought him out to discuss the selection of students. Life was truly unpredictable. Mr. Huai sucked in a breath of cold air. Mr. Wu actually did not receive a single vote. Lu Ke is really ruthless. Did Mr. Wu offend him? Wu Taibai smiled calmly. "He wanted to challenge me, but I refused." Mr. Huai sighed. "He's still too young and impulsive." Wu Taibai did not receive a single vote, and Lu Yin had assumed that Mr. Zheng would replace him. As for himself and Mr. Tang, the votes from before had already been secured. Many people had fallen because of that vote, and Wu Taibai had also been secured. He had been forcefully pushed down by Lu Quebec. The results were unexpected, and the person who replaced Wu Taibai was not Mr. Zheng but Mr. Wei. Even President Wen was astonished. Is Mr. Wei that popular among the students? Mr. Wen Jr. was helpless. Those who voted for Mr. Wei are all boys. President Wen shook his head. No wonder. He then looked at Mr. Wen Jr. Look at you. Even a woman dressed as a man is more attractive than you. Mr. Wen Jr.'s face reddened, and he did not look at President Wen. The final results of the voting were out. The instructors who would lead the team were Lu Yin, Mr. Tang, and Mr. Wei. Even though Mr. Wei had refused once again, the rules were the rules. Since the students had chosen him, he had to go. President Wen immediately called 3 people over. The students will first choose the instructors who will lead the team, and the instructors will also have the right to choose the students. Each of you will choose 25 students to participate in the training, and I will choose the remaining 25. A total of 100 students will represent Xian Academy and head to the 4 cardinal scales. President, this is too childish. Mr. Wei himself doesn't want to lead the team, so how can he make such a choice? If anything happens in the top realm, the students won't have anyone to protect them. Mr. Zheng came over wanting to replace Mr. Wei. Mr. Wei also said, it's best if Mr. Zheng can replace him. Mr. Zheng apologized to Mr. Wei. It's not that I'm looking down on Mr. Wei, but he's a professor of history. This training of the 4 cardinal scales is no small matter, and it can't be taken lightly. Please forgive me. Mr. Wei smiled. I understand. President Wen barked, what do you take the academy's rules for? What do you take the students' feelings for? Everyone fell silent. President Wen looked at Mr. Wei. No matter the reason, since the students have chosen you, you should go. Luck is part of one's strength, and everyone has qualities that surpass others, whether good or bad. Our academy is not a battlefield where powerhouses charge at the front. He then looked at Mr. Zhang. You may leave. Since the decision has been made, it cannot be changed. Mr. Zhang was helpless. Yes, President. After Mr. Zhang left, President Wen glanced at Lu Yin and the other two. Remember, the academy is the academy. No matter what happens in the outside world, we stand on the side of the instructors. This will never change. There was still a month before the training, and Lu Yin finally managed to select 25 students with Nong Xinyang's help. He handed the list to the president and then prepared to roll his die. He wanted to know what was going on with the 4 cardinal scales.